Good morning and welcome back to the channel. We've got a couple of big news stories this morning. Obviously yesterday the news broke that Gavin Strachan, yet he turned down the opportunity to manage Shrewsbury Town. He was made a really good offer, financial offer, but he chose to remain at Celtic. That's one of the big stories that are kicking about. But an even bigger story is the fact that Aaron MOOY, big Aaron MOOY, is thinking about retiring with a year left on his contract. There's been rumours swirling around that the fact that Aaron MOOY's willingness to back up the games for his country last week, be backup player, he decided not to. It's been suggested that the player, who is 33 in September, he sidestepped Australia's friendly loss to Argentina and China last week. There's genuine concerns in Socceroos circles he may resist the temptation to add to his 57 caps and 2 World Cup finals appearances. He was inspirational last season. MOOY declined to comment when asked to clarify whether he will see a final year of his 2-season deal at Celtic Park. One well-placed source said the uncertainty is starting as MOOY is thinking things over with new coach Brendan Rodgers has just taken charge. It suggested that he is one of the top earners at Celtic on $35,000 a week, and that isn't a UK site I'm looking at obviously for this information. And MOOY stands to forfeit $1.8 million. I can't see him doing that at all. I think he will see at the end of his contract. For a guy whose career started at Bolton Wanderers, spells at St Mirren, Western Sydney, Melbourne City, Huddersfield Town, Brighton and Shanghai Port. Well-travelled player is thinking about finishing his career on a high after the treble win at Celtic last season. You've got to remember, Aaron MOOY did sit out the final last 5 games of the season, including the Scottish Cup final victory over Inverness with an unspecified injury. Before we go on with the rest of the story, you remember back to last season and the season before, obviously, when Mr. Postecoglou was the manager, and he had a reluctance to talk about players' injuries. I wonder if Brendan will be more forthcoming on an ongoing basis. And it's one thing Ange did. He never spoke about players that were injured and never given any time scale. Never even spoke about the injuries at all. It was something that he didn't want to talk about. It was as if it was he's seen as that was a negative mindset of talking about negativity, and it's maybe one part of the positivity that the guy had. Anyway, will Brendan Rodgers be slightly different and talk about injured players a bit more and tell us what's going to happen? It suggested that he was on the brink of quitting football, according to Socceroos coach Graham Arnold. A year ago, he was unhappy with his stretch in China because he had a few injuries and obviously the quarantine travels and restrictions of COVID lockdowns. Arnold coaxed MOOY back onto the fold, helping his country past the United Arab Emirates and Peru to qualify for Qatar 2022. And Aaron MOOY had a fantastic World Cup, and you've got to say, for his age, I think it's far too early for him to retire. Whether MOOY has the desire and drive to continue, it remains for now. I think it all comes down to a conversation with the manager. I don't think he'll be pushed out the door by any means. I think Celtic will stand by him for the last 12 months of his contract. Whether he wants to sit on the bench for the last 12 months of his career, it's hard to be seen. He was really important for Celtic last year. He had, after the World Cup, he was actually on fire. With 12 months to go with his contract, this went on to say, I'm not sure what his intentions are, but it makes the game look so easy, and you might think that retirement is a long way off, declared this report. I'm not inside the head or the body or know exactly how he's feeling, but I imagine being back in Glasgow with his wife and kids after travelling the globe playing football must be a fantastic feeling. That's another reason I don't think he's going to quit. I mean, if he's still got a year to go in his contract, sit out the year, stay at Celtic and then go into retirement. It can be tough on him saying, but what are the motivations? It can tough being playing potentially 50, 60 games a season in all competitions at a big club like Celtic. I don't think he will play that amount of games next season, but you never know. There's a lot of interest in seeing how Brendan might change things in the midfield. MOOY's importance to Celtic last season was unbelievable, especially after the World Cup. I think it would be really sad for him just to hang up his boots. He was in obviously a difficult situation before the World Cup, having played little time his time at China due to the circumstances, but when he moved to Celtic, I mean, he played absolutely brilliant, and we all know how good a World Cup he had. He's a terrific guy, and we wish him all the success in whatever he does, but I really hope that he does stay at Celtic. And obviously Gavin Strachan has been offered another job, and he turned it down, which is great news. Now I'm looking at a report, it's actually in the Scotsman, and it's talking about Scottish football reviews calls for an independent regulator to drive change and interest. Now this is something interesting, because when you actually read the article, it's like the pyramid system in Scottish football. Now any club that has 30 fans at a game, it's just mad when you look at I mean, you got to remember, I think it was East Stirling finished bottom of the league for about 4 years in a row and never ever got relegated a few years back, and something has to be done with Scottish football. It's not the channel to talk about the bigger, wider issues for Scottish football, I know, but they've came up with 15 key objectives after a 22 strategic recommendations to ensure the long-term sustainability for Scottish football. The first thing you can do is make the SPFL bigger, get away from playing 4 times each a season, because everyone hates it. Stop the split, you know, and if there's teams that are only getting 30 to 50 people, fucking mosquitoes, per game, how can that be financially viable? They basically want to take, and this is the even better, in May 2023, 1,225 people were surveyed. That's a massive amount of people that go to Scottish football, especially when you look at the lower leagues. 96% felt that the appointment of an independent regulator would be a positive step. The biggest drawback, according to it, was 47.3% said that clubs would not welcome it. That's not an opinion surprised by Stenhousemuir chairman. Who the fuck goes to see Stenhousemuir? Do you know what I mean? I'm all for these little clubs and everything, but in the modern day, in the modern game, do these clubs have a place in professional football? A lot of people are going to say yes. You know, they're probably the same level as Sunday League stuff. Yeah, it's absolutely. Whenever there's change, there's always an initial fear of what usually the most extreme could lead to, but very rarely it does in Scottish football. Nothing ever changes in Scottish football. Some have the more historical organisations are harder to accept change and modernise and move with the times. Well, that's the SFA. The SFA have never changed and don't want to change. They want to keep the same I am, to keep the SPFL was breaking away so that they could try and have some change. Is it time for the SPFL to be bigger than just 12 teams? I think so, personally, yes. I think playing Sevco 4 times a season is brilliant for our ego and beating them and putting them in their place, but that's not good for the game. And the only reason that they still play each other 4 times is for TV, the TV money. And the TV deal that we have in Scottish football is absolutely ridiculous. Let's face facts. They used to say, oh, but if we don't play each other 4 times, Sky will pull the plug. Let them pull the fucking plug. Let them pull the plug. Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen probably could make more revenue by doing PPV on internet these days. You could sell it around the world a lot easier than this stupid deal that we've got for Sky. And the commentary fees, and the fact that they switch off 2 minutes after the game does my in the head in. Anyway, let's get into our Zen-like thing, right? If you ask me, this guy's saying, not for regulating people's lives. Right, let's skip through the rest of it. Right, this is it. The review talks about the financial distribution. We have to look at that. Nothing against the lion's share of the money going to the bigger clubs. And they wanted, you only get 2 million or something for winning the league in Scotland. They want to dilute that anymore. It's not Celtic, Rangers and Hearts' fault that they have a bigger amount of fan base. If clubs that have only got 30 folk going to a game want a bigger lion's share of the money, get more people going to games. Make it more attractive. Football, kids don't play football in the street. I go out here and there's kids, people are in mass and the kids are outside the church playing football. Kids are playing football in the street outside restaurants. It's nuts. In Scotland, they've got no ball game signs on parks. Kids aren't allowed to play football in the street. They've got to go to... Anyway, that was a rant this morning. On that note, we've still managed to watch to the end of the video. Have a great day, Celtic fans all around the world. And let's get back to the Celtic news in the next video.